Welcome to Lesson 1 in Unit 1, Introduction to Plants and Animals. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, is it living? In this lesson, students figure out that living things need food, air, and water. Living things move and grow. Plants and animals are living things. Start by framing the unit for students. Show them this video of a deer in the forest, and ask them questions to get them thinking about how living things work with the things around them to survive or live. Throughout the unit, students will focus on the design challenge. How can we make a model and use it to compare the basic needs of pets and wild animals? Ask students what they think they may need to know in order to answer that question. Take any questions they have about the design challenge. It may be helpful to write down their ideas and questions on chart paper to revisit over the course of the unit. In the engage portion of the lesson, teachers will ask students how we know if something is living and ask them to name some living things. In their journal, students will circle objects that are living. Teachers, be sure to save these for students to revisit later in the lesson. In the Explore, students will be divided to work in small groups. Each group will work together to sort a set of laminated cards into two categories, living and non-living. As they are sorting, ask students to justify the reasoning for their choices. In the Explain portion of this lesson, teachers will lead students in a discussion about how they sorted their cards. Keep a record of student thoughts about each card by posting each picture and using tally marks to record student votes for living and non-living things, or recording the class majority for each picture. Students may be unsure about their sorting choices, and that is okay for now. They will have a chance to sort the cards again later in the lesson. Next is a read-aloud of the book, What's Alive? You'll find a read-aloud guide for this book in the teacher pages. This read-aloud guide will help you start a conversation about characteristics of living things and connect back to the lesson question, what are living things? As you read the book, encourage students to compare themselves to the animals and plants described. After the read-aloud, return to the card sort and allow students the opportunity to make changes to the way they previously sorted the cards. Encourage students to use evidence such as examples from the book to support their claim of whether or not the items on the card show living or non-living things. In the Elaborate portion of this lesson, students will go on a hunt to look for living things in the school environment, or if weather and time do not permit, they can observe the environment outside the classroom window, or observe class pets and plants. They will record their findings by drawing the objects they find on the Living Things Scavenger Hunt pages. Direct students to draw one object they find in the large box on each page. Encourage them to include plants and animals in their journal. When all students are finished, discuss their findings. If students are writing at this point in the year, encourage them to label their drawing. But if they are not, then adding plenty of detail to their drawing is appropriate. Later lessons will more deeply address classification of living things as well as differences between plants and animals. At this point in the unit, the focus is on general identification of living things. In the Evaluate portion of this lesson, students will complete a formative assessment. Return to the student page from the beginning of the unit where students circled living things. At this point, students can make changes to any of their choices about what they believe is living and non-living. They can erase their circles, or mark an X over any objects that they no longer believe are living. Ask them questions about how they know their revised choices are correct. By the end of this lesson, students will have used their own observations and a card sort to determine what is living. They will also have identified characteristics of living things, including the ability to change and grow, the need for air, water, and food.